What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to another Week 9 preview and prediction video where we are going to talk about the new number one team in the country. The Oregon Ducks are undefeated on top of the Big Ten right now, and they're going to get an interesting test. The Illinois Fighting Illini come on the road in Autzen Stadium, and they're going to look to bounce back from that Purdue performance and at the same time carry momentum from their win against Michigan this past week. I'll tell you everything you need to know about the Ducks and Fighting Illini here in just a little bit, but I got to do my usual spiel. Thank you so much for supporting me and especially taking time out of, I'm sure, your busy schedule to simply watch this video. It really does help me a lot, but please continue to support me in any way that you would like to, whether that's right here on YouTube. And if you're as big of a college football nerd as I am, you might as well hit that subscribe button and ring the bell if you haven't already, and continue to like, comment, share. It all helps support what I do here on this platform. But I'm going to try to post a little bit more on other social media like Twitter or X, whatever you prefer to call it. Follow me at TailgateNate29 if you want to know everything else I have going on in the sports media world and everything I'm doing to try to become a sports media professional. With all that said and done and out of the way, ladies and gentlemen, this one should be a really interesting contest. Again, Illinois has proven that they are a legit squad this year. They can hang with a lot of the big boys, and no test probably bigger than this. Yes, they've gone on the road and played Penn State. That's their one loss this year. Well, maybe they can get a signature road win and start to make things a little interesting in the Big Ten. And of course, Oregon looks to hold serve as the number one team in the country. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? We're going to go through some keys to the game when each team possesses the football. So first up, it'll be the Fighting Illini offense against this Duck defense, and then we'll flip it. We'll take a look at the Oregon offense versus the Illini defense, and then I'll sort of give you my final thoughts, how I think this game is going to play out, and of course, at the end of the video, a prediction for who I think is going to come away with the win in Eugene. The new number one team in the country faces a top 20 opponent when the Illini come to town. And we, of course, are going to start with the Illini offensively. Now, none of these numbers that you see on screen are absolutely going to wow you. In fact, some of them might even be a little bit concerning, such as that sacks allowed number. The offensive line has not been that great for the Illini this year, but we'll talk about that when we get there. You take a look at the past couple performances for the Illinois Fighting Illini. Let's take a look at that Michigan game. Well, the rush game worked out really well. 187 yards, one touchdown, averaged right around 5 yards per carry. The pass game did not. Luke Altmaier only had 80 passing yards and one touchdown, but you didn't really need anything spectacular from Altmaier to get past the Michigan Wolverines. You kind of needed something spectacular out of the pass game from Altmaier to be able to get past Purdue. The Boilermakers provided a real good test for this Illini team. Altmaier had 379 yards, flipping those last two numbers, 379 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. And the rush game, well, it still worked out pretty well. 177 yards, 4.5 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. I've been reading a lot that's saying this rush game hasn't really been working that well. It's actually been working fairly well. You're averaging right around 4.5 yards per carry over your past 2 games. Now, I know you struggled against the Purdue Boilermakers. That was more defensive struggles than the offensive struggles because the offense hung 50 points on the Boilermakers there in that game. It was the defense that really struggled there in that one. And sure, yes, could the rush game be going a little bit better for the Fighting Illini? Sure. I mean, you could say that about pretty much every single team, right? The rush game could be working a little bit better. But I think in order to win this game, first and foremost, the Illini are going to want to be able to control the clock here, and that starts within the run game. You have to be able to establish the run, especially on the road in a tough environment and against a really, really good team like the Oregon Ducks. They're not number one for no reason. They have earned that. They picked up a big win at home against the Ohio State Buckeyes, and yes, they struggled on early, but have held serve the entire rest of the way throughout this season, and they dominated a team that, well, Illinois had trouble with a couple weeks ago in Purdue. Oregon just went ahead and dominated them this past week. You go ahead and you take a look at everything these two teams are about. Illinois, if they want to win this game, have got to be able to control the clock and keep the opposing offensive Oregon off the field as long as possible. We're going to talk about why that is in just a little bit. I'm sure those of you have a pretty good idea already. But as the run game has got to set the tone here. I think it's going to find its carries, and I think it's going to be able to find its rhythm. It might not find it all that consistently or be 4.5 yards per carry good like it has been in the past couple of performances, but I do think it'll average maybe 3.5, maybe 4 yards per carry, and it will be able to set the foundation here for this offense, giving you a little sneak peek onto what I think is going to happen here in this game. But I think the big key for the Illini offense is Luke Altmaier. And I say that because he has to have a bounce back performance from this past week. Again, Michigan's offense is not that special. You didn't really need too much out of him to be able to really pulled that win out again. The rushing attack did a lot for you. The defense did a lot for you there in that one as well. But Altmaier, 80 yards and 1 touchdown on just 9 of 18, that's not going to cut it against a team like Oregon. He's going to have a performance like he did against the Purdue Boilermakers. But Altmaier has been really, really smart with the football so far this season. He's only thrown 1 interception all year. That's it. That is all Luke Altmaier's thrown. He's been really smart. He's been a really good, solid, efficient quarterback for the Illini most of the time this season. Where you do have some problems with this offense is you got to be able to provide pass protection against an Oregon Ducks team that has some really good players up front. They have 20 sacks on the season so far, and they got a lot of really good pass rushers here. You take a look at one in particular, Mateo Uiagalelei, that has 5.5 sacks so far this year. Derek Harmon, the Michigan State transfer, has 3 sacks. That is third on the team, actually, because I do have to mention Jordan Birch in there as well. One of the best defensive linemen throughout the entire country. Off the edge, has got 5 sacks this year. They force turnovers. They're good in both the pass and run defense. They're really good third down defense. Altmaier's got to be able to find some explosive plays. You got to be able to win the battle on third down. Start with establishing that run. But then Luke Altmaier got to be able to find some of those explosive plays down the field. But I'll just touch on it a little bit because I feel like I've kind of touched on it already here. But the pressure, just keep it coming. Keep throwing blitz packages in every single pressure formation that you can imagine to this Illinois offensive line. It has struggled this season. If you want to look at the Illini and say 1 or 2 areas where they've struggled, well, they've struggled in pass protection and they've struggled in ball security. 5 out of the 6 turnovers that they have given away this year have been off of fumbles. Oregon's defensive front, well, more than capable at being able to force pressure and being able to create takeaways with that defensive front. Obviously, the secondary can do it as well. This is an Oregon defense that's got talent all over the field. The Illini can hang in with this one, but I think they got to control the clock, establish that run, and you got to be able to find an explosive player too, particularly through the air against this Ducks team. When you talk about the Oregon offense, again, as I mentioned when I talked about them in the Ohio State video, this is not the go, 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 go Oregon offense of old under Bo Nix. This is more of an, okay, we can control the pace, we can slow it down, and we'll still hit you with an explosive play every now and again, and it's exactly how they beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. They stuck to their rhythm, they didn't beat themselves, they didn't turn the football over, and an explosive play here, an explosive play there, especially through the air, really got them where they needed to be and put them in good position there to win that game. That's how they came out with the win against the team from Columbus, and it's why they're the number 1 team in the nation instead of the Scarlet and Gray, who very easily could have come out of that one with a win. But the Ducks, I think, are going to have to be sharp in their offensive attack. Why? Well, this is an Illini team. You talk about everything that Oregon does well defensively. The Illini do it too. They're able to create pressure. They got 19 sacks this year. They're able to take the football away. They got 13 forced turnovers on the season. There we go. Couldn't get that out for a second. And the defense is only averaging opponents right around 5.5 yards per play. That overall is a really pretty darn solid number. Oregon has got to be able to, look, you want the Fighting Illini to control the clock and the offense to be on the field as long as possible to keep Dillon Gabriel and all of the weapons that Oregon has under wraps and on the sideline as much as possible. Oregon's going to want to do the exact same thing, not necessarily for the reason that, hey, that opposing offense on the other side of the field is dangerous. We got to watch out for it. Illinois has their moments, but they're nowhere near as potent as the offensive attack that we are going to see out of Oregon here in this game. If you are I should say before I get into that point, Oregon really is pretty simple here. Offensively, just play your game. Let Dillon Gabriel hit his D shops to Trayshawn Holden, Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart. Let this running back in Jordan James, who's been spectacular this year, really get after it. Let Noah Whittington get a couple carries in there. Just play your game, control the game the way, let Illinois play your game. If you get Illinois playing your game and you kind of you have their defense and offense kind of adapt to your style of football, the Illini are not going to keep up. If this turns into a firefight and a back and forth shootout and whichever team has the last possession is going to win, that's not the style of game that Illinois wants at all. I think if the Ducks just quite simply play their game, the Illini are going to have a really tough time. But the Illini can do some things defensively to be able to not allow Oregon to play their game and to allow the Illini a little bit of a better fighting chance here in this game. One, you got to be able to limit the Ducks as much as possible. Do not allow the explosive plays. It's what killed Ohio State in that game. Allowing the explosive play through the air, particularly Denzel Burke getting cooked in a couple big runs here and there as well. If the Illini can limit the explosiveness of Oregon, if they can get Dillon Gabriel down in the backfield, this is an Oregon offensive front that struggled early in the season, but has been really good as of late. Since that Boise State game, they've only allowed 2 sacks all season. That is going to be something to come into play here. The Illini are good at being able to generate pressure. They have got to be stout here in this game. But I think you're going to have to force some turnovers here in this one. Let Dillon, or I shouldn't say let, because Dillon Gabriel's not going to do this by himself, but force Dillon Gabriel to throw the ball into some tight coverages. Force Dillon Gabriel to get the ball out of his hands sooner than he wants and keep the pocket contained. Gabriel has shown he can get outside of the pocket and run. Not only is he a 2,000-yard passer so far this season with a pretty good touchdown-interception ratio, he's got 4 rushing touchdowns on the year, including at most a 54-yard run. You got to account for that when you are talking about the play of Dillon Gabriel. Turnovers, I think, are going to be a big thing here. Oregon has been susceptible to it. The Illini have got to be able to force some of those, particularly with their secondary. I think the Ducks are going to be well tested here in this one. The Illini have proven that they are a legitimate opponent this season. Their only loss on the road against Penn State. They've beaten some other really good opponents so far this season. They have a win over Nebraska. They have a win over the Michigan Wolverines that they just got this past week. I know Kansas has struggled, but that's still a Power 5 team that you have a win over. This, however, by far, okay, maybe not by far because that road game against Penn State, pretty tough for them as well. This is going to be another very big test for this Illini team. Even if they lose this game, they're going to look to prove that they belong, right? They made that Penn State game a fight till the end. And I think this one is going to be a fight to the end as well. 21.5 points. I mean, I see where Vegas is coming with that. Oregon's a much better team than the Illini, in my opinion. But come on, 21.5. I think the Illini are going to be able to cover that. But again, if this one turns into a firefight and it turns into a shootout, Oregon has got the clear advantage. They have the better offensive weapons. They have the better scheme, and they have the better game plan for that type of game, which I see it more likely being a shootout than I do a sort of old school Big Ten style ground and pound game. Oregon, not an old school Big Ten team. They're a new school Big Ten team, and I think they're going to put the Illini in their place and cement themselves, at least for the moment, as the #1 team in the country. I got the Ducks winning this one by 15. Late score helps pull it away, make it a little bit farther away on the scoreboard than what it was, kind of like what Penn State did against the Illini in their matchup. Illinois will fight, and they will have some good plays. Oregon just too talented. They come away with the win in Eugene. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section down below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.